So this morning we are talking to Erin Evans, who is co-founder of Firesoft People and also a serial entrepreneur and has her finger in many, many businesses and a very interesting business background. Erin, thank you so much for chatting to us this morning. Do you want to give us a bit of a background on who you are and the incredible things that you've done?
Thank you, first of all, Tan, for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. So that was far too kind, that introduction. But I am Erin Evans, as you mentioned. I'm the founder of what is now the Firesoft Group, and there's a couple little companies involved in that. So the one company we have is called Firesoft People. We're a recruitment company. We specialize nationally in just technology. So we do technology across the stack. And then the second company under that head is called Intelligent. We're focusing on big data, machine learning, AI, data science, all the fun, crazy, Jetsons kind of stuff that we thought was never possible back in the day. But we do consulting and full cycle project delivery on that side. So that's where I spend the majority of my time. I'm not Australian, I'm Canadian, as perhaps is clear, maybe not. I arrived on Australian shores 12 years ago now. And this is home. This is home for me. I now have my family here, a son, a dog, husband, all the things. So where I live, this is my life.
That's a busy life for an entrepreneur, isn't it? Having that family and juggling and all the bits and pieces that go with that. Yeah.
Yes, as you well know yourself, it is. It's a challenge, and then probably one that I was terrified of. I know you and I discussed this many times over, and certainly you were one of the inspirations for me to just have the courage to dive in, but it's just a different way of being disciplined in terms of time management, and that is a whole other discussion.
Yeah, and not being afraid to ask for help, right? Not being afraid to fail at it and not being afraid to ask for help. Yeah.
Big time.
There's a huge, just like this is a little segue, but there's so much pressure on mums, new mums, to be perfect and to be able to breastfeed and to do everything. Your child has to reach milestones and do all of it, and it's just too much.
There's an app for everything, my God.
Sometimes
if you don't have an app for your breastfeeding schedule and certainly your milestones and your lips, my gosh, if you're not on track, it's a minefield. It really is a minefield, and I think balancing just new motherhood along with owning a business or two or three or whatever it might be, it's a lot being asked of women. So I think it's kind of refreshing to dial it back a little bit and just focus on the basics, get really disciplined with time and reach out. As you said, it's a village. It needs to be a village that you rely on.
So Erin, we wanted to chat today about staffing and sort of first, I guess, jump into when you're in startup mode, it's you and you alone, and you're doing everything and you're trying to be everything and you're trying to be an expert in everything. And we've now learned after starting a number of businesses that you're not really an expert in everything and you do have to invest, but there are smart ways of investing. So wanted to ask you if you could go back to your early days and also some of the things that we've been talking about recently in a group that we belong to, of businesswomen that lean on each other. How do you find talent, and how do you kind of navigate that world when you're first starting out of getting bits and pieces of really awesome people to assist you?
Absolutely. And you know what? It's this beautiful, chaotic, exciting, passion-fueled, exhausting time that we all have been in and are so familiar with it. And there's just a sense of purpose and passion and focus on achieving. And I think with that hat on and wearing those lenses, we have this sense of, I can do it all. Of course I can. I will drive this home. And, hours and hours and hours a day, a week, not sleeping much. And it's so easy to fall into that rhythm of burn it till there's nothing left. And I think there's a point in time where there's a balance that has to be decided upon and kind of an investment of time versus return. And so in the early phases of that business, there's a budget, and it's usually a very, very small one. And whether or not you're going for funding or you're bootstrapping, it's this street fighter mode of where is my energy best spent? And then what can I just not do really that well? And how little time will that leave me to do the things I'm best at that will actually drive the business forward. So it's what I do is I always talk about a time audit. So to start off, as people who are going and starting a new business, you kind of think, first of all, I have this great idea. What am I going to do and how am I going to get it off the ground? Second of all, oh my God, I had no idea there was so much involved. Third of all, how am I going to do all of this myself? And you sort of just start running at it. And I know we've had this discussion many times. Where do I start? So if you start doing a time audit around exactly what it might take to get you from milestone 1 to milestone 2, and that might even just be a website. That might even just be a minimum viable product that you're going to sell or a service you're going to sell. But from milestone 1 to milestone 2, tiny little steps, what's required in there, auditing all those little bits and pieces, and then going, what am I the best at out of all of that? And where is my highest serving value out of all of that? And then what can I do, but maybe I'm not great at? And nearly grading these little pieces from, this is me 100%, I love it, I'm great at it, and I can move the business forward with that. The next bit, I could do that. So marketing for me is a great one. I could do that. I do love it, but am I an expert? Definitely not. So that kind of goes in the middle. Then the third one, for example, am I a developer? No. Can I do any of the back end administration and all of it? Am I in my happy place with that? No. Should I outsource it? Yeah, 100%. So I start grading these things as I can do it, kind of medium grade, and high grade must require outsourcing. So once you have that kind of chunked down version of what it is that you could do, would be okay doing, and definitely can't do, then you have a more clear list of, right, what am I starting with now? Then that recruitment kind of hat can go on, or that outsourcing hat can go on, and you can say, I am 100% sure that the money I'm investing in this person is going to be a good return on my investment, and my time will be spent in my highest serving tasks elsewise.
That's great. I love that time versus return, looking at where you spend your time and what's the return you can get for it, because we can all go down this rat hole of trying to design posters and flyers and ads in Canva. Doesn't mean you're good at it, and it means you might spend 3 or 4 hours playing with colors when you really could be looking at the overall strategy of the business, or finding a resource that can really deliver something that wows.
Yeah.
And also that minimum viable product is so important, because you want to get market feedback and then you want to spend the time on it. Yeah.
Completely. We had only this discussion yesterday around how much energy do you invest in that initial product when you haven't even, temperature tested your market, or you haven't had feedback, or you haven't had any, do you really want to build the perfect version and then go, oh gosh, I was headed in the complete wrong direction. Look at how much money I've spent. So it is that constant iterative process that you sort of develop something, then you change it a little bit. I'm 10 years in business in January, and I'm still changing things. And so it will never be this perfect version of the business that you're super proud of. I'm always conscious of there's little holes, and we'll do that as entrepreneurs who are building things. That's kind of where our happy place is. So never expect it'll be perfect.
So there are a couple of tools that people can use to maximize getting these resources on board without actually employing people, which we know is a big commitment within a business. Once you take on an employee, you then have a responsibility to pay their salary and everything. So that's a massive step. But before that, your business has a product called You Recruit, which I think is awesome, because I know from when we were a really small business, getting a recruiter to help you recruit people is such an investment, and it is money well spent once you can afford it, but you've got to get to that point. So you've gone one step below that to try and help people that can't yet afford it. Tell us about that.
So You Recruit was a product of two things. One, your brilliant mind being one of them, and your kind of frustration and complaint to me going, how do I know how to do this? How do I compete with the big end of town? There's recruiters out there trying to, this is all they do is their job. How do I know what I'm supposed to be doing, and if I'm not messing it up? There was that couple of years ago kind of gripe, me thinking, God, gosh, you know what? There isn't anything in the industry. There's a huge gap there. And that then seeded and developed, and it kind of became a lot more apparent as I had more discussions. Then COVID hit, and suddenly, first round COVID, people were flatlined. Businesses were absolutely out of cash. People were panicking. There was fear. There was a ton of kind of question mark around the industry. Corporate land was pretty much on pause. And so I thought to myself, well, goodness, it's a good time for us to develop something new. We're not as busy as we usually would be in the operations and delivery. Let's focus on some R&D and do a little bit of background to this. What we found is there was a lot of need. We did a bit of a market test. We did a bit of a research and analysis around this, discussed it with current clients. And what we knew is coming out the back of COVID, people were going to be tight on cash, but there would be a bounce in the market and people would need to recruit. So there was going to be this weird kind of economy of scale without the finance behind it, that this would probably need to happen. So we set to creating a tool that would teach people who didn't have the ability to, or the funds to go out to a recruitment agency to completely outsource recruitment, but still wanted to feel empowered and clear and educated on how to go about the recruitment process with the hat and lens of a recruiter who had been doing it and been trained and professionally certified. So YouRecruit was born. And it is literally a 14 phase. And if you head onto the website, you'll see what I mean, but there's a big wheel and it takes you through 14 phases of sort of the recruitment life cycle, from the talent attraction piece, all the way through legals, all the way through the psychology of selling. Recruitment is selling, of course. You know, you're selling your opportunity, you're selling your culture, you're selling your company, your vision, your dream. People want to know why they should work for you. So it's a lot of teaching you how to do that properly. And then locking that person in, it doesn't stop there. It's about retention and empowerment and build and, you know, really ensuring that that person can have a career progression within your company. So you have a retention strategy. So it takes you all the way through that. So it doesn't just finish when they sign on the dotted line with you. So that tool is online completely. Learn at your own pace. There's all the project management documents, how to, you know, people kind of go, oh, I posted a job, now I've got hundreds of people coming at me. How do I even stay organized? So we solve for that. There's lots of project management tools in there. There's templates, there's offer letters, there's documents, there's resources, there's videos, and very kind of follow the bouncing ball. If you follow it, you should lock the talent in that you're looking for.
Oh, that's gold. And then before you get to that point, though, there are other resources as well that you can tap into that doesn't make it as permanent. So some of those are like Airtasker, which is obviously global, but you would pick up local talent to help you with certain things. And it's not just sort of handyman stuff, which I think there's this view that that's what it's for. But you can find some incredible talent on there. And then there are offshore ones like Upwork, which I know you use a lot, and you have so much respect for your team abroad. And people are scared of that, though. I know there's a bit of a stigma involved in offshoring work because it's not supporting the Australian economy. But on the other hand, it does have its positives again. So do you want to give us a bit of an overview of why did you offshore some of your team and how does that work for you?
Yeah, brilliant. We started offshoring 5 years ago now. It was a very controversial topic when we first started offshoring. It was before sort of this really intense talent shortage hit Australian shores. It was before offshoring was kind of more and more common. People kind of asked me, what are you doing? Why are you not employing in Australia? And it really came down in the end to us realizing that not only, so to kind of qualify this, in recruitment consultants who do all of the sort of front end client facing business development and sales and closing that candidate process of finding the right people for the right roles, they have a whole team behind them who actually do a lot of the administration, who do a lot of the research, the searching, the talent pools, and the developing of really clear pipelines for talent mapping. There's a ton of work that happens before it sits in front of the recruiter. And we started to realize that our recruiters were getting really, really bogged down in the heavy administration, in the stuff that they were spending hours and hours and hours on their computer. And we thought, you know what? We've heard about this offshore thing. It tends to sit in that category. And at that time, that was the primary kind of communication. Elevate out of heavy administration and do your best work. And so I thought, let's give it a go. I sort of went down the road of going through a BPO, which is, at the time, it was a Manila-based BPO, which is business process outsourcing. They're big corporations in Manila that basically say, we'll hire a stack of people. They will be our consultants, and we will basically sort of consult them out to organization as and when needed. We will train them up according to your requirements and your standards. And there'll be people who do heavy administration, data processing, input, back end. Sometimes there were developers or technical people, but people that could really kind of technically sit wherever they needed to in the world. They were willing to operate on Australian hours. And so we thought, let's just give it a go. Let's just see what comes of this and what's the worst that can happen. At that time, I was very, very bogged down in administration from a director perspective, scheduling, calendars, back in administration, documentation, paperwork, digital, you name it. Like, the drill, Tania, you wear all the hats most of the time. And so I thought, let's try. And what has resulted after now 5 years is that very first person has come permanently on our team and has developed a team of her own in the Philippines that are now absolutely flying. They're embedded in our culture. They're part of our team. They are just as much part of the team as anyone else. We're all on lockdown anyway, and digital life has been completely transformed over the past 24 months. So for us, we are getting a huge saving in terms of overheads and spend on I say lower level talent, not to say that's less important, because it's incredibly important. It's the backbone of our business, but that lower level data kind of entry, research, just high administration and high focus tasks. It has been transformative, absolutely transformative for the business. We've since been sort of recognized as a bit of a leader on that in terms of our industry, and we're now helping other companies and other agencies do the same thing and implement these offshore. And it's been incredible to watch as companies have developed and completely changed their systems, then later come back to me and go, you've changed my life. This is crazy. Thank you for opening my mind to what's possible. And when you get the systems in place for these people, anything is actually possible. Apart from changing the ink in a printer in a physical office, we can pretty much do it anywhere.
Well, you preempted the COVID world, didn't you? Like you were doing Zoom
we
and all of that.
We were lucky. We were very lucky.
You're trailblazer.
Yeah, wow, wear that hat. No, do you know what? It was very much a lens of how can I elevate my consultants out of the heavy lifting sort of back end stuff so they can be face forward with their people. Our company is called Firesoft People. We are people focused, we're people facing. And so how can I elevate them from behind their screens or behind their phones and get them in front of people? That was pretty much the premise.
Yeah. And we spoke yesterday, we keep referring to yesterday, we have a group that we belong to called Accountability Circle, where 8 business owners meet and share and help each other, and we're basically a mother's group for business women. So that's what we're referring to.
That's a good way of putting it, actually. It's very true.
And we were talking about the kinds of roles that you can outsource to offshore. And one of them was customer service. If you have, for example, chat functionality, and one of the businesses was saying that they use that chat functionality, or they offshore it so that they can have somebody on over a weekend that they don't come back for a backlog or to a backlog of they run a retail store. So there are really clear benefits to companies using offshoring because of the time difference. So somebody can be at a desk when you don't have your normal staff there, and also over weekends. But there's an amazing work ethic, and just the Philippines is really struggling at the moment with COVID as well. So there's a real feel-good element to being able to help somebody else in the world that is doing it tough, right?
Massively. And I think that's when my mindset shifted around, because I'm very, homegrown support. Australian, support small. That is a part of my fabric, of course, because we're all in it together and we do need to support each other. But when you open that lens up a little bit and you start thinking about a global economy and you start thinking about that, and I'm going to go a little bit unity woo-woo on this, but we're all one economy, really. Like we're not only has COVID completely changed the digital landscape, but we are globalized in a way that we haven't been before. If we can reach out and help people around the world and support them and support people who are going through really tough times, and Philippines has been locked down for nearly a year now. So, we think we're in dire straits. They're now, on their 15th month, I think. So to see all of these opportunities arise for these individuals who would otherwise be putting themselves at risk, going from their home to their BPO organization, allowing them to have the flexibility, the work-life balance. We've got many, many mothers who are balancing. We had 2 have a baby last year. They had babies while in the process, and we were flexible. And the gratitude and the loyalty and the life-changing stories that are coming out of our team from over there, it's inspiring not only me and my business partner, but certainly the rest of the team as well. And knowing that we're all kind of in it together and we're all shared, we've got a shared vision, and it doesn't matter where in the world they are. It really doesn't.
Yeah, every brand has a story or a fabric that it builds itself against and that you want to share with your employees. And I think that if you're intrinsically a good brand with a social conscience, why should it stop with our island borders? Why should we not be making a global difference, even if you're a local business? So I'm a very strong believer in that, is people are people, mothers are mothers. It doesn't matter what country they live in. But there is this aspect where people think, well, you're almost using that as an excuse to get cheap labor. But what might seem as cheap labor for us, it makes a world of difference to them. And yeah, maybe we can talk a little bit about that economic value, because it's economic value for you as the employer, but for them, it changes lives.
It changes lives. And that was one of the reasons, and I know I've communicated this story to you, when we first started off with the BPO model, and this is not to slam the BPO model, there is a time and a place for that. And there's a lot of corporations around the world that benefit from the BPO model. After utilizing them for about a year, started to do a bit of digging. We went through staff and there was a bit of turnover, and as soon as the staff left, there wasn't a lot of communication, and it was sort of like, okay, well, our IPs just walked out the door now, and okay, now what? We have to train these people again, and it was hard to maintain that sense of culture and that sense of team. And so I started to do a bit of digging and kind of asking the question, okay, cool, so what do you guys get an hour, and understanding more about their home lives, what they were working with. I mean, you're not well today, why are you here? Oh, well, I'm required to be here by the company and I'll lose my job. There's 20 people behind me who are going to take my seat. And, starting to really understand the culture behind just the person who's doing the work, and getting to know them. And it came to my attention at that time that there was a huge discrepancy between what we were paying the consulting BPO and then what that person was getting, to a very large degree. I understand margin. I understand, most definitely a money-making process in business. Of course, we all have to add margin, but it was to the point where I thought, this is on the line of my integrity and my values as supporting another woman in this case. And so I started to go, I'm not okay with that. I want to empower people, not disempower them, and continue to perpetuate this nearly abusive situation. And so I thought, I'm out. let me find a different way, because clearly there is a different way. And so after a lot of different sort of discussions, we then came around to, okay, we're going to take you on permanently, and then that team built from there. And so we've never gone back to that BPO model before or after that. And what these people are getting now is 3 times, 4 times, if not more, than they would have gotten in that same role in a BPO organization. They have purchased cars. We have single mothers putting their children through school. We have people who have started businesses off the back of their current business. driving a second source of income. We have people who have put themselves through further education, but like they couldn't do that if they were in a BPO model organization. The flexibility, the mental health, they all have access to our psychologists on call. They all have access to annual leave. They all have access to sick leave. We cover insurances, all of these extra things that, you know what, as you grow and as your bottom line gets healthier because you're saving the money here, you then can pump that in
Invest
to
that
supporting
back.
it further. It's just the model makes sense if you're doing it from the right place and if you've got the right headspace to say, these are humans that I want to empower. And doing that, investing in humans will only ever result in strong potential.
Yeah, I agree. It's the most important thing you can remember in business, really, is that the more you put into your human capital, the more you will get out of it in every sense in your business. A healthy culture, a healthy bottom line, retention, it all flows through.
Oh, yeah. Massively.
Oh, Erin, it's been amazing talking to you, and we could talk about this and other things all day long, and I'm sure we'll have another episode where we'll talk about other stuff. But thank you so much for sharing about You Recruit. You also mentioned that there will be a special offer and a promo code for unicorns. So thank you very much for supporting our community. I'm sure that when they get to that employment stage, they are going to love tapping into that resource. Is that resource specific for tech recruitment?
No, we built it to tackle all industries. I think everybody has the same problem, whether you're tech or you're retail or whatever you are. It is the same foundations and principles. So yeah, I'm very excited for the unicorns to have access. Very good.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thanks for spending time with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. Cheers, Ten.
Bye.